This is the Randall Library Friends sponsored Adventures in Food and Travel. And tonight we're here in Stow, baking with apples. And there are plenty around. We have some in the back we're going to pass around that were picked just yesterday. They're McCowan's. And then we have some at the table that are Empires as well. If you knew that Honey Pot had made a special yesterday, so we picked quite a few. We also have some cider in the back for you, but our main event is having Karen Collins here. Karen will tell you a bit about her business, but she started her bakery here in Stow out at the Minuteman Airport in the commercial space, and then moved on when you grew bigger. But she's here to show us a few things about what we can do with all those apples that we have. Why don't you take it from there?
All right. Well, thanks for coming, everyone. So my name is Karen Collins, and I have had pretty much one job, and it's being a baker. I'm self-taught. I learned at a job. I was hired to sell bread at a bakery in Vermont, Burlington, Vermont, and the lure of the pastry room just behind that door was too much, and so I delicately barged my way in and ended up bartering washing sheet pans and dishes in exchange for letting, the pastry chef was going to teach me and help me learn. And I worked with her for 2 weeks in the middle of the night, and then she was a no-show. So I was sitting in the parking lot, 2 a.m., waiting for her. 2:30, I start to get really stressed, and I ended up, thinking, okay, well, someone has to get things going. So I went in, and she never returned, and yeah, I mean, it was, it's Vermont, what can you say? So yes, that afternoon I had the fortune of calling my parents and saying I got a job, and they were hoping for marketing or advertising or something like that, and I'm like, no, I'm a pastry chef, and you could just hear silence. So I'm self-taught. I moved to Massachusetts with my now ex-husband. We're friends. We started Neshoba Brook Bakery together in '98, and I was there until we parted ways, and that was in 2004. And then I had 3 children that were young. I didn't really know what they ate. I wasn't, I hadn't been parenting. I had been more, baking. And so when I was home, I started baking out of my house, and would give it away for free, call friends, do anything. If some customers from Neshoba called me and they said, oh, you made my daughter's wedding cake and now she's having a baby, can you do something for a baby shower? And I know is not a word I use ever. So anyway, so I kept doing that, and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do when I grew up, and all of a sudden I had this epiphany of, maybe I could start my own business, and I didn't need, I could do it. I didn't need much. I didn't need someone else doing it for me. And so I started it out of my house. We moved to Boxborough, and I had a rolling rack in my dining room. It was a very popular room for my children and their friends. And so, and then when I got my first wholesale account, which was Idlewild Farms in Acton, I said to the owner, Rich Napoli, I'm working illegally out of my house. I have kids, I have dogs. It's like, there's nothing good about this scene. And he said, well, do you plan to move into a commercial kitchen. And at that point, no, I don't plan. So no, I hadn't really thought much of anything. And I said, well, yeah, yes. And he said, that's enough for me. He said, everyone starts in a basement, a garage, a house somewhere. And so as long as, at some point you're going to do that, then that's fine. So I built out a tiny kitchen at the Stow Minuteman Airport, and I loved it there. Got to see all the balloons take off early morning. I had a bird feeder, and I love my birds. I loved it there, and it was a tiny little, we were in an office space that I think originally had been, someone was researching or doing R&D for ice cream, and then I took over, and then another ice cream place went in to my spot afterwards. And it was all great until I bought one piece of equipment that was too tall. It didn't fit in. The ceilings were too low. It never occurred to me that that could be an issue. And it was sort of like, well, now what? Are we gonna stay small and, have small equipment, or what are we doing? And I don't know the thought process that went through my head at that point, but I decided it was a really good idea to go bigger. And so we relocated in 2014. We're now in Shirley, and yeah, the business is not anything that I ever imagined it would be. So we sell wholesale products. We sell to New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, Maryland, Virginia, and I have 28 employees, which is a full-time job. But it's Bisou Sweet. So it started off as baby cakes, and we were in we had an issue with our name, so we had to rebrand. So it's Bisou Sweet, which no one can pronounce, and that's okay. Bio Sweet, Bison Sweet, whatever. So anyway, so that's my background. I am here, I got called by Liz to demo, do baking with apples. And so I have apple things, and then I'm not a good rule follower. And so, so my apple demo turned into more of we're gonna do a lot with pie dough. And I'm gonna show you, because what I kept coming back to is there's, so many ways you can make an apple pie, and that's good and fine. And for the most part, how can you go very wrong with an apple pie? And then I thought, well, you can go wrong with the crust. And so that's what I'm really gonna focus on. I wanna do a shout out first to one of my coworkers, Chrissy. She is one of the family that owns Derby Ridge Farm. So she donated all the apples tonight, and these are from her farm. They're gorgeous. They're the best apples, honestly, I've ever had. So I just want to, her card's here. If you don't ever go there, please stop by, because it's, it's a cute little place, and she bakes on, she makes apple pie. So really good apples. Okay, so I'm gonna start. I have two recipes. So the first is apple blondies, and you'll laugh because I baked them really quickly at work and didn't read the recipe well. And when I train people, I'm like, it's very important that you read the recipe all the way through. And if you have any questions, ask me. And so, of course, I didn't read it. And I can't make just one of anything. I have to, do it times, 4 or 2 or something. And so, so I added twice as much butter. And so then, so that's at home. And there are the correct apple blondies back there for everyone to try. It's the easiest recipe to make. It's all you do is chop apples, mix butter with brown sugar and add eggs, vanilla, flour, cinnamon, salt, all that stuff. And they're so good. They really are tremendous. They're out of the cookbook that's on the back table, the Apple Lovers Cookbook. Highly recommend it. So those are there, and the recipe is right up there. And now I'm going to go to the pie dough. So I like, I don't use anything that I can't wash off my hands. And I don't like getting my hands dirty too much. And so I personally don't make pie dough with Crisco or shortening, because you literally cannot wash it off your hands. And so that's kind of a deal breaker for me. So pie dough is a tricky one, because it's tricky, but honestly, it's really not that tricky. So there's a lot of, the water has to be ice cold and the butter ice cold, and, you're mixing it in just a certain way, and don't add too much water, blah, blah, blah. So, and some of that is true. You do want to keep the water cold, and you do want your butter to be cold. This butter is, I can put my finger, kind of make a dent, and so it's not super cold, and I'm still going to use it, and it's still going to be really good pie dough. So, Stella Parks I use her recipe. She's a cookbook author and has a ton of really good recipes. And the thing that I like about her recipe is that it kind of involves laminating the dough, which, and you're not making, this craggy mess and hoping that water keeps it all together and kind of becomes glue. So anyway, fun fact, sometimes, so this is a bench knife. It's really good for cutting butter into squares. Cutting butter happens to be one of my favorite things to do. So everyone at work laughs at me because we cut a lot of butter for scones. And I kind of get a little cranky when I see other people cutting butter. I'm like, I want to cut the butter. So this is very satisfying for me. So as you can see, using a bench knife, super, super easy, which is great. So for this recipe, nope, this one. So it's flour with a tiny bit of sugar and some salt, and I'm gonna put that in the bowl. And then you add the butter. You can do this, I think, with a Cuisinart. I like doing it with my hands, so I choose not to do the Cuisinart. And I got my ice cold water. It's a cup, because I had to double it. We'll just wing it. I'm gonna put in more and try to, okay. Yeah. So here's, can you guys see? Whoa. Whoa. Where is that coming from? Okay, wow. Good thing I'm not self-conscious. Okay. Okay, so her recipe is you have your butter cubes and your flour, your dry ingredients, and what she does is she presses each little one flat. So you just squeeze it. That's what you do. You flatten it. So I'm gonna go through and flatten the butter, and it doesn't really take very long. And then once it's flat, we add the water, make dough, and then we start rolling. It's super fast. So, does anyone have any questions while I'm flattening my butter cubes?
You don't in any way try to blend it with the flour yet.
I'm not doing that, no. Rule breaker. Yeah, exactly, new rule. Well, yes. So,
Do you have to have it in the flour to flatten it, or can you flatten it before you put it in?
you know, I don't know, but I have butter here and we can see if it's, I'm thinking that the flour helps so it doesn't stick to your hands, and it also, the reason for the flour and the butter and the flour surrounding the butter is that as it melts, it forms little air pockets, and when it's layered, that's what makes it flaky. And I'm not sure what Crisco does. Do you know?
Similar. You have to keep it really cold to make it more like that.
Yeah. So, okay. So, pretty much all flat. So I'm just gonna mix. Oop, not all flat. Almost. So the thing that's cool is that once you have a good pie dough recipe, you can make a lot of different things with it. So I brought a muffin tin because we can make pie, you know, like a big pie and do that. But you can also make little dumplings. And so you cut up little squares and put it in your muffin tins, and suddenly you can take the same apple pie filling and it's an individual dessert. It's really cute. They're easy. They pop. You can literally lift it right out of the muffin tin. So if you can't roll a circle, if your circle looks like Texas, then dumplings might be a good idea. So, okay, so you can see it because the camera's there. It's kind of creepy. Sorry, okay. So I'm putting in water, and I'm gonna try to keep the cubes out. Okay, refreshing. And I'm mixing it, getting messy. And then once it is kind of one cohesive ball of dough, I'm gonna put it on this, I'm gonna put it on the table and start everything else. So,
Do you do this process with every pie, like your hands, not a big Hobart mixer?
so we actually don't make pies anymore.
Oh, you don't?
So we used to, and I love pies. And we have gotten to the point where we have to be very selective about what we make. And so we started cutting out some products that I've been making for years. And so like one is rugula, very time consuming, and pies would, you know, another one. So yes, I do it by hand because I make it at home. So, okay, so this is the finished dough, okay? So the next thing is not being scared of using flour. So this is a mat that I have that's kind of grippy and sticky. I think I got it originally for fondant, for cakes and stuff like that. So you want to, if possible, roll dough on something where it's not, I used to have cutting boards, and I'd try to roll it on the cutting board, and the cutting board was sliding as, you know, I'm rolling it. So I'm like, it didn't work out really well. There's a lot of really good tools that are available. Kitchen Outfitters, I'm a huge fan of the store. They're great, and they have a ton of selection. Also, just any kind of online, I don't know, Amazon, wherever. But having a good surface to roll is really helpful. So
Flour has a mat for pie makers that actually has the circles. If you wanted to see.
yes,
Similar to that, it just meant specifically for pies.
which is great, because that's one of the challenges. Okay, so I'm putting flour down. I'm dumping gently my dough. There's some extra dry stuff here. I may have not used quite enough water, but I think it's going to be okay. So, yes, of course. We use King Arthur at the bakery, and my husband does all the shopping at home, and he managed to find King Arthur organic flour, and so not because of any particular reason. So this happens to be made with King Arthur organic. I love King Arthur, so they have a unbleached, unbromated, bromated?
So just the all-purpose.
Yep. Okay, so here's the dough, and what I'm going to do now is roll it in a flat. I'm going to put a little more flour on it. Bless you. Okay. So the butter that you don't mix and incorporate really well into when you're making the dough is actually getting incorporated by rolling it. So that's one of the tricks.
So does that form less gluten then? If you're not working it when you're mixing it?
It does. And it also just saves a step. I think one of the things with pie dough is that, it's people get nervous because there's so many places where maybe you could do something wrong. And so I think that there's a lot of discussion of like, well, how do I know if it's the butter is incorporated enough? And sometimes people incorporate the butter so much that you have, dough before you add water. And so, I think the point of this step is to just get it so it's a cohesive lump, and then you start, you're really laminating the dough and incorporating the butter at the same time. So I wonder if this table has been rolled on before. I'll try not to break it. Okay, so what I'm noticing is that it's pretty stiff and not very elasticy, so I think I probably could have added a little bit more water, but that's life. Okay, so then what you do is you are folding the two edges into the middle, and then you're going to fold it in half, and this is called laminating. You can do this with scone dough, and it really gives a nice lift. And then I'm just gonna go like that and put this aside. So I am gonna run into the kitchen. Yeah, so I made dough at home. It looked completely different than this. It was sticky and gloppy, so I probably used too much water, but I have it here, and I'm gonna just show you how to, get a circle out of a piece of dough. That's another challenge with pies is, just rolling a circle. So there's a couple of tricks.
So are you saying, do you let that dough rest before you roll it out, or you do it right away?
I'm going to let it rest because it's really tight, and I think it's because I didn't add enough water.
If it's not elastic enough, you let it rest before you roll it out, otherwise you just roll it right away.
I think dough should rest. Right? So even if you're in a rush and you're teaching a class and you have to make that pie, roll it and get it in the oven as quick as possible. But if you have time, resting, just the gluten gets tight, and when it relaxes, you can actually roll it and it will not creep back and shrink. So
Recommended time for resting?
it's how much time you have. So I could make this, have it sit wrapped in my fridge overnight and roll it out the next day. You could make this, have it in your fridge overnight, roll it out the next day, fill your pie tin, wrap your pie tins and freeze it until you need it. We freeze everything. So it's, use your freezer to prep so that so you don't have to roll out your pie dough really quickly because it's already done. So, okay. So here's my sticky dough. I don't know if you can see, can you see? So this is the same thing as this, just wetter, So, this is a square, and there's a trick to getting circles. And what I really don't want to break the table. Okay.
It's got wheels on it, that's why it's moving. I think it's okay.
Okay. It's okay until it's not. So at that point, we'll figure that out. So, if you are, it's really hard to take a piece of dough and take it and turn it and roll and turn and roll. So what I recommend, and it's a great trick, is get it oblong to the point where if you had that nice mat, you would know how wide. But this, I'm going to do it a little bit longer. Okay, so that's basically the diameter. Is that the right word? So then I'm going to turn it a quarter of the way. I'm going to put a little more flour on it, and it makes a circle. It's like magic. How cool is that? So it's great. So it's one of those things where if, let's say you're donating pies for a food, I don't know, something, and you're making 12 pies. You can have all of your blocks of pie dough. You can roll all of them into that rectangle oblong thing and line them up on your counter, your tray, and then go back to the beginning because the first one has rested, and you can start turning them a quarter of the way, and before you know it, you have lots of pie dough circles. So putting it in a pan, if you are having problems getting your pie dough off your counter, offset spatulas are great. You can just run it under there. Pretty much if it's sticking, you're not using enough flour. As you can see, this is not sticking at all, and it was very sticky. So don't be afraid of using flour. Flour is your friend. So some people roll it over the rolling pin and then roll it backwards. That's never been a super strength of mine. So yeah, I mean, yes, exactly. Okay, so another trick, dough tends to shrink. And so, you know, you put all this effort and energy into making really, you know, yummy pie dough, and you put it in the pan and you make a really beautiful edge, and then you put it in the fridge like it says, and you weight it down and pre-bake that shell and for your pumpkin pie. And, you know, next thing you know, you have, you know, like a flat circle of dough, and that's frustrating for everyone. So the reason why that happens is there's a couple of reasons. So one is that the gluten is tight, so it's shrinking. Another one is that the dough is stretched too much, and so I always try to make the dough, the circle, bigger than the pie tin, and then I like to pull it down towards the center, and it just gives it a little extra dough, so it prevents all of that the possible shrinkage. So I'm not going to bake this. Someone can take it home if they want. But these are Derby Ridge apples, and I thought I just would show you how to put the lid on the pie, and then what I do to crimp the edges. You missed the best part ever. I'm teasing. I'm a little sister, so at work everyone's like, oh my God, you're not funny. Okay, so for the apples, I always like to use a mixture of apples as opposed to just one kind. And it's just different taste, different texture. I love thinly sliced apples because as they bake and soften, they don't drop down as much. Like and so there's not that big air pocket between the really nice, beautifully rolled out pie lid and the filling. So slice those apples thinly if you want, and I didn't print.
Yeah, that's a super high pie.
Are you judging my pie?
Yeah, we're admiring it.
No pie for you. Okay. So it's probably 2 pounds of apples in there, which I think is reasonable. Just kidding. I have a business coach, and I'll have to talk tomorrow with her about how I got defensive over my apple pie. Thank you. Pie therapy, yes. Okay. Oh, okay. So there was a recipe that I saw that was apple cider caramel apple pie. And I thought that looked great. We had talked about making caramel, and of course, because I didn't read the recipe, I didn't notice that you had to cook down the cider for 60 to 70 minutes. And so there went that. But it looks really good. I think I am going to make it for my family for Thanksgiving. So this is brown sugar, cinnamon, and flour, salt. Salt is also a really good thing to have in your kitchen and to use. Okay, so should we try this one? I think I'm gonna. Okay. So if you are, I know. So You can weigh it, you cannot weigh it. You know, it depends. If you are a meticulous person, have at it, put it on the scale. Okay. Put that over there. Let's see how this rolls out. So different rolling pins. This is a dowel French. I'm self-taught baker. So I'll use this. It's nice because you can, yeah, it's just applies pressure differently. Sometimes, yeah, see, I should have added more water. The rolling pin, I'm not sure. A French pin, I don't know. So do you see how it's shrinking back? Okay, I'm going to put this away. So that is, yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe.
Is it too late to add water? Yeah.
I don't know. I think, you know, it's like sometimes things don't work out. So I made the apple blondies with twice as much butter, and I put it in a, you know, cup for my husband, and it was more like pudding, and he ate it. So that's he's on a diet, so, you know. No, so if something like this, I mean, honestly, like I could roll this out and stretch it. It was just made, so it hasn't really had much time to sit. If it didn't matter so much, I'd probably make pie dough cookies out of it, or decorations, like cut it into little stars and bake those and put that on top of a pie. If it doesn't work, you know, it's not worth the fight. You know, it's like pick your battles with your kids. So anyway, all right, so back to my sticky dough. That's now my favorite child. Okay, so oblong, and then so some pies that I have never made. I've never made a cherry pie. I would like to make a cherry pie at some point. I think apple pie is my favorite. I grew up with a dad who ate blueberry pie and chocolate ice cream, which I always thought was a little odd. Okay, so you have it. It's a circle. I would probably dot this with butter. I'm laying it over the top. And so once you do that, just like we push the pie dough into the shell, I like to kind of do a little lift up just to make sure there's enough dough and it doesn't shrink. So then I take you can use anything. There's lots of extra. So I feel, I don't even know how I do this, but I just kind of cut off the extra, and I think I've been doing it for so long that I don't know. Anyway, so you're gonna figure out how much of a crust you wanna have. I don't use water or egg whites or anything like that. Okay, so I pinch the edges together and then roll them under. I roll under. Okay.
What happened if you fold it over?
I think that when I baked it, it would unfold and
The juices would come
yeah, that would be messy.
While Karen's crimping, we're sending around some of the McCowan apples if you want to try
Oh,
some.
nice.
And home, you always use gloves, and you just do this for
I have gloves at home, so I think my hands, yeah, I don't know. Sorry. Yeah, my hands are very dry because I do a lot of dishes. But we have to wear gloves at work. We wear hairnets, so it's a good day, that I can be here without a hairnet. Okay, so now this is sort of done, and the crimping part, there's a lot of different things that you can do. My favorite is to push in and then pinch it on the inside, and it makes this beautiful,
All for goodness and
I love it.
gorgeous. It's neat.
And so that's just, I'll show you different kinds. You can change the angle that you're holding so this is kind of straight in. You can angle it and get a different look.
Look how neat. Oh, wow. That's,
And
I wonder. I'll try to make a hat. How's that? Make a pork pie.
You never do the fork.
I don't do the fork, but I don't judge forks. So that's just, there's all sorts of things that you can do. It never bakes off as nice as it looks unbaked, so enjoy it when it's like this, and when it comes out of the oven, it will be a little bit, more freeform and stuff like that. You're going to want to put vents in so the steam comes out. These are scraps. You can re-roll it. I know that, that's, never re-roll your dough because it won't be as tender. Own a wholesale bakery and you re-roll, until it's close to death. But you can rework it. You can also use it for, if you wanted to put a cute little heart on this or something like that. Or my friend loves pie dough cookies, and so she would never order pie, but she would say, make me pie dough cookies. And so I would bake off strips like this and sprinkle it with cinnamon sugar, and that was sort of her treat. So I'm going to keep talking for 5 more minutes. So someone can have this. Yes. Oh, yes. I'm just going to show you the dumpling thing just because it's easy. And this, you don't have to worry about the circle. Okay, so for this, you are going to cut squares. I am going to eyeball it. And you can line these up and cut more squares. So like that. Okay. Muffin tin. So for this, you're going to just pop it right in there. They're so cute. I love these. So what's great about this is when they bake, they never stick. I shouldn't say never, because then someone's going to call me and say, you said. So they might stick, but usually they don't stick. And once they're done baking, you can just pull on the little tips and it pops right out. So when I do these, I cut the apples into cubes, just because these are awkward, right? So there's all different ways you can cut your apples also. So I just do little cubes, and you can make apple pie filling, same stuff, and just put it in there if you want to top it with anything, like a crumb, an oat crumb. It could be cinnamon sugar again, that kind of thing. Ice cream is always good once it's baked. So anyway, so that's another thing that you can do with pie dough. So if you're not interested in doing that, you can still do something like this. If all else fails, Pillsbury makes, I am not kidding. So if you end up with this, pie dough fail, and you are determined, you have your apples already, you cooked your caramel for hours and you just don't have pie dough, go get the Pillsbury roll-out pie dough. I've used that in an emergency in the past, and people, my mother would say, oh my God, your pie dough is amazing. And I'm like, thanks, Mom. That's awesome. So it really is good. And I'm sure it has Crisco in it, but because it's already rolled out, I don't have to wash my hands, so it's all good. But really, if that's still baking. So you want to have fun in the kitchen. You don't want to have fights in the kitchen. And so if you're fighting with your dough, maybe there's a different solution, and you don't have to battle. You can buy one component, make one component, and have that same smell coming out of your kitchen, and you can feel happy about it. So that's all I have for you guys. I do have, I have the brownies. And if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer. Yeah.
Have you noticed any difference if you use gluten-free flour?
I have zero experience with gluten-free anything. Sorry. However, I have two people that would be happy to answer that question, so you can always email me. One of them is Annie Cronin. She's the owner of Annie's Gluten-Free Gourmet, and her bakery is right around the corner from mine. And there's also a man, Patrick Auger, who used to be at the Teapot Tea Room. Is that what it's called? There was a tea cart. There was a tea house in Boxborough. He used to work there, and anyway, so he is actively creating gluten-free mixes and all that kind of stuff. He's a wealth of knowledge. I am like all flour, butter, sugar. So. Yeah.
Are you still supplying to Idlewild?
Yes.
What kind of products do you supply?
So our main products these days, our top selling product line is a donut muffin. It's a muffin that's baked, not fried, and it tastes like an old fashioned donut. That is something that originated when we were in Stow. And so we would bake all day. There was two of us. And after we were done baking, we didn't want to eat anything we had made. We wanted to eat something else. So we'd make these donut muffins. And they were baked in a muffin tin this size. and you bake it, and then you dip it in butter, dip the top in butter, and then in sugar. And I would rip off the top, chuck the bottom, and kind of make my way through my part of the pan. And then, you know, that's all I wanted. I just wanted the top part. And so I, you know, thought about taking this, you know, big thing, but you don't want to eat a big thing like that because that would be bad. And so, so then we got little muffin tins. And so, so we, you know, that's our number one selling product. It's 60 some odd% of our business. So we make those all day long, every day. And we also make biscotti. We make a uniquely soft biscotti. I've had an Italian woman tell me it's not biscotti. I say I'm Jewish, I'm sorry. So I, you know, just like I don't like getting my hands dirty, I don't like eating things that, you know, cut the roof of my mouth, and some harder biscottis have the tendency to do that if you don't like dunking, and I'm not a dunker. And so, so anyway, so our biscotti is softer. It's not like spongy soft, but it's not, you know, break your teeth hard. And we also make cookies, and we make a Linzer heart cookie. I've been making that for years, 25 years to be exact. And I don't know, lemon shortbread, whoopie pies. We used to make cupcakes. We're getting out of the cupcake business. We make fudge brownies. Used to make arugula. Used to make pies. So it's changing, I know. So.
How do you feel about that? You know, going into production, I mean, large production, something, you know what I mean? I know it's a business, but as opposed to being creative in your kitchen and being able to make pies and things that you love, you know?
Yeah, it is very different.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, again, I'm not a planner. I didn't have this great vision of like, wow, I want to, you know, own a company and sell donut muffins across the country. So it's different. But literally, I get pleasure washing dishes, and I love just cutting butter. And so for me, I'm not kidding. I'm being actually very serious. So like any process that's kitchen related makes me happy. The HR stuff, not so much, but I'm a very good Jewish mother, so I give lots of good advice, and I'm very patient. But, you know, so it's different, but I still go to work, and I feel like I'm, you know, playing. I don't really, so I love what I do. I really do. Yes.
For these muffins, these square little things you put in there, you said you could top it with different things. Could you like cut out a leaf or some kind of something and put it on the top, or would that just be too much dough?
So if you cut out a leaf and you put it on top, when you bake it, when it's done, it's not going to look like a leaf. It's
going to just be a blob.
It's going to be like a piece of, you know, crust, but it doesn't really retain the shape, because it's going to, you know, as it's baking, it's going to, you know, just like a pie, you know, it's going to kind of change. What you could do, though, is you could cut out your leaf, bake it separately, and then just top it or put it, you know. So, and you can make little hand pies. You can put a tiny bit of stuff in there, cut a circle, so it's like a really pretty, you know, little pocket of stuff. So there's lots of things you can do. Any other questions?
Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Karen. Welcome.